All right, good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Market's been open for almost an hour here. S&P down about 6 points. You can see off its lows here from the open this morning. Fairly light volume, but kind of typical for this time of year. And plenty of differentiation out there in the market. You know, that has been a commonplace here in this market, to where, you know, it's not about market going up or down. It's about sectoral type of moves. And a lot of sectors are in chop mode right now, really kind of ebbing and flowing based on the analyst and, you know, what some of the analysts are saying on a certain day. We're seeing the analyst impact here today as well. But market it's waiting for, you know, the Fed Chair Powell. He did speak briefly this morning, but really didn't comment on anything. Tomorrow, though, he will be testifying in front of the House Financial Committee here tomorrow morning. So that'll be is probably where he's saving, his important comments for. So, market kind of waiting for that. I was talking with one of you yesterday, and said, hey, the market's always on hold, always waiting for something else, always waiting for something. And I said, yep, market is, market's always waiting for something while it's moving. And, there are certain types of moves in the market. There are chops and there are trends. And, the chops can get a little frustrating for trend traders, right? And, we've talked about trading chops before, and, it's a different style of trading, not one that's very conducive for the challenge. But the whole challenge philosophy, the whole challenge mentality, goes back to survive the chop and thrive in the trend. And so far, the challenge here has done a really good job of that. The market is chopped and, bled on down. And even though we've been in call positions, really haven't taken anything, dramatic here in the market. And, just continuing to kind of survive in the chop and grind around. And, we'll thrive when those trends, finally start to break. Now we're in two positions here for the challenge. Those two positions here, last I looked, Disney was down a penny and Under Armour was down a penny. Let's go take a look where they're at now. Disney's up 5 cents and Under Armour is down a penny. Wow, massive movement going on here. Disney did open down $1 this morning, which was interesting. We saw it, gap on down and open down here at 140. And, I was a little worried we might see analysts, the market makers pin it down here. But has pushed on back up. The option is barely in the green. But let's fill in the prices. Under Armour, $247, and Disney is 502. So I'll put 502 and 247. And so here we are. We're 200 shy of 11,000 on the gain side, 200 shy of 14,000 on the challenge value there. So, we're sitting in kind of the same spot we've been for about the last week and a half here in the market. Since it kind of went into chop mode. Both positions have a small gain on them, but nothing to write home about or anything like that. Auto exit date for Disney, if it were red, is now. If it's green, it's this afternoon. So unless Disney makes a nice charge here this afternoon, we'll have to pop on out of that. And then Under Armour hits its red date here this afternoon, and doesn't hit its green exit date until the 11th, so 2 days from now. And most likely, barring something dramatic in Under Armour, we'll be able to hold that. But most likely this afternoon, we'll be out of Disney. No matter where it ends. There now, could it give us a reentry or something like that? Not really. The 3-7 moving averages aren't set to cross on down. So we'd need to see a downside crossover and then upside crossover kind of come into play. I love the chart. I think it's a very bullish chart here overall. But we'll continue to run here with the algorithm. Now this morning there's one upside crossover on the board, and that's Bristol Myers. And this was a downside crossover yesterday, but didn't qualify as a trigger. Today an upside crossover. The upside crossover could qualify as a trigger later this afternoon, but this morning it is not. But what we have this morning are 8 stocks with downside crossovers. Downside 3-7 crossovers. Now, none of them are qualifying as signals here, but I'll show them to you. They all kind of look the same. Apple, right? We have Apple, we have Caterpillar, we have Honeywell, right? They all kind of just look about the same. This kind of low volume, just kind of bleed back to the 20-day moving average. Intel, which had a downside 3-7 crossover yesterday, but rallied on back, falling a little bit today. So now having it. We have Pepsi, who had earnings here today. So I haven't had a chance to go through them yet, but I will go through them. But, very short option friendly trade on Pepsi here. Pretty nasty for the long option traders. UPS, has that same type of downside 3-7 crossover. Verizon's is a little bit different. Verizon had a downgrade here this morning that's helping to push that lower, but then Whirlpool, looks like Apple, looks like all the rest there. So we have a lot of those kind of coming into play here, but none of them qualifying as a signal. Yesterday we had a couple downside crossovers. I mentioned Triple M. I was surprised it didn't trigger, but it didn't. We didn't get a fresh trigger on it, but it was downgraded here today, along with Alcoa. Both of these on the watch list. Both of them, crossed on the 3-7 downside yesterday. Neither of them triggered, but both of them hit with downgrades here today. What's interesting is they're both hit by downgrades from firms that had overweight ratings on the names. And let's face it, these have been, disasters for overweight ratings, right? You talk about underperforming the sectors, underperforming the market, right? Triple M is in the industrial sector. And, here in 2019, it's sitting with a pretty sharp loss on the year, where if you take a look at the XLI, the industrial sector, it's sitting with a pretty sharp gain on the year. So very dramatic underperformance for Triple M. And so, when you have a firm going from outperforming, cutting, kind of throwing in the towel, it always makes you wonder, okay, are we in a period where we could see a bottom, start to come in to some of these names? I don't think there's any sign of it right now, but this is a day with Triple M where, if Triple M is able to stabilize here and starts to reverse back with a higher low, could be a very interesting buy. I don't expect that to happen, right? That's not my suspicion that will happen. It's just if that happens, it's a very solid setup for it to the upside. If we happen to get that type of action. Yesterday we saw Boeing, right? And Boeing, the news cycle on Boeing has been really ugly. Ever since we got out of our position back here, the news cycle has just kind of been awful for it. And, yesterday you kind of look and you go, okay, lawsuit this, lawsuit that. All right, stock should really sell off. And it hasn't. It's continuing to kind of hold up here around 350 with some of that really bad news cycle here. Is one that, if it starts to rally again, we could see a bullish trigger come in. But nothing, nothing on the board just yet. And the majority of the watch list is, either kind of like an Apple, where, it's bleeding on lower here last couple days, but really in a consolidation mode more than anything, and finally getting it. It's been a nice run here for Apple. It needs some of that cool-off period. Most of them are like that, or they're just kind of consolidating, in that consolidation mode. And that's what we're seeing, from the majority of the stocks that are on the challenge watch list. And so, no new triggers this morning to go after. We'll continue to look to survive the chop, and we'll thrive when it trends. And when will that be? Yeah, it's always one of those things where we saw trend signals to the upside, start coming in, when the market was when the market was selling off and looking kind of ugly, and the internals kind of ugly, and everyone's talking about new lows coming in for the market. We saw the upside signals come in, and ran with them. So it'll be one of those where we'll wait for the upside signals. They come in, we'll run with them and go. And if they're not going to track, if they're not going to gain any traction like at Disney, we'll pop on out and move on and wait for the next setups. Okay. There really isn't a whole lot that I look at the market and I go, wow, this is game-changing. This is something really dramatic. This is something different. And that's just the nature of what the market's been here so far at the beginning of this year. Very nice price action this morning on Netflix on some reports of Stranger Things and the number of viewers for Season 3 of Stranger Things. My wife and my daughter have watched every episode, and I haven't seen a single one. But they keep telling me I need to watch it, so maybe one of these days I'll binge watch a little bit of it, but that is helping to drive Netflix here and to push it on higher. And Netflix sitting near new highs, in the face of Disney's Disney prep for their launch of their streaming platform, and it just tells you a lot about Netflix and how much traction they're gaining. And this is not a company that's fly by night. They are doing major things, and very revolutionary type things, to help to push and reward shareholders, and to grow their dominance. Just grow their dominance in some of the in the markets that are out there. It's funny. I think if I told my daughter I would take away her stuffed animals, or I ground her in a room for a day, or there's a lot that I could, say, hey, I'm going to take this, and she wouldn't care too much. If I said, nope, your Netflix is gone, she'd be pretty upset. And, just one of those things where we continue to see the stranglehold that Netflix, continues to have, and, continues to grow. And, one of the things about Netflix is, some of their subscriber growth internationally, some analysts believe it hasn't even started yet. They're just starting to ramp some of that up, and we'll see how it plays out. But very strong, very positive news here for Netflix here this morning. No fresh 3-7 cross to be able to go trade it for the challenge or anything, but a positive news cycle for it, to say the least. And quite the opposite of something like a Boeing in terms of the news cycle right now. A new challenge spreadsheet link has been posted into chat, so any updates will go on to this. The Algo Challenge 5 will no longer be updated, but all the updates will be done on this number 6. So we just change the link every once in a while, just for a security standpoint, and we changed that link here this morning, so you'll see that there in the message feed. Okay, thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow, or say this afternoon. Take care.